afternoon and welcome everyone. This is the second edition of our career conversations that we're having with some Bedford County businesses. Today we are hosting Innerspec for our career conversation. But before we get into that, I'd like to go over a few rules today. The meeting is being recorded for later use, so please stay muted. Feel free to put questions in the chat and earn one extra drawing entry if you ask a related question for the chat. And to be entered in the drawing, please complete the brief form that's also listed in the chat. So you should see that link. If you don't, please type a message in the chat box and we'll take care of that for you. So today, to introduce myself, I'm Pam Bailey. I'm with the Bedford County Office of Economic Development. I'm the Marketing and Business Development Coordinator, and I work with the school systems and all kinds of different tasks that kind of go along with that. We also have Mrs. Trish Sawyer. She is the career coach at Jefferson Forest High School. And we have Mrs. Taylor Flint, and she is the career coach that is shared between Liberty High School and Stanton River High School. And today we'd like to welcome Frank Weinmeister. Mr. Weinmeister is the Director of Operations at Innerspec Technologies, located in Forest, Virginia, just down the street from Jefferson Forest High School. And so at this point, I'd like to turn it over to him so he can tell you kind of about his career pathway, and he's going to take us on a little tour around the facility and talk to some other employees that they have there. Frank?
Sure. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Pam, for inviting us. And we look forward to this each year in person and this time virtually. So hopefully we can get back to doing it in person again. So as they said, my name is Frank Weinmeister. I grew up in this area. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to where I am today and about our company. And then, as you say, I'll take you on a quick tour and show you a couple of the technologies that we use here at Innerspec. So about myself, I am a native per se to the Lynchburg area. I wasn't born here, but I grew up here and have spent most of my life here. After high school, I went to Central Virginia Community College and have an associate's degree in electronics. And shortly after that, I went to Virginia Tech and finished off that degree into a technology field and then became an educator. I was in a program called Technology Education. After that, I worked for 11 years as a high school teacher, in which time I got my master's degree from Lynchburg University, as it's called now. And then soon after that, after 11 years of teaching, I discovered Innerspec Technologies, and I started here about 15 years ago. And when I started, I was hired because of my technology background, as well as the organizational skills that I learned as a teacher and through my education programs. So I started out working in the customer support division, where we would repair and test and do certain things to our equipment in the field with customers. I eventually rebuilt that program and became the director of our support group. After a few years of that, I moved into the sales and marketing area and started working with actual direct sales with customers. And shortly after that, I took on the quality division as well as the marketing of our products. And then in the last 4 to 5 years, I've become the director of operations. And so I kind of dabble in a lot of different areas of the company. What our company does, most people, a lot of people haven't heard of Innerspec. What it is we do is create what is referred to as non-destructive testing equipment. So we go out into industries and we assess problems that they have. They come to us with an issue of being able to test products that they're making without manipulating the product itself or changing it. So not, cutting it in half to see what's inside. So we do tests for, and it's mostly in the metals industry. So we're looking at steel mills and we're looking at manufacturing or processors of materials or the end users of materials for instance, automotive industries, aerospace, names that you would be familiar with, places like SpaceX, United Launch Alliance, things like that, NASA. And we test the products that they're putting together to build the rockets. We might test the integrity of welds. We might test the thickness of the materials that they're using, because they're using very, very tight tolerance of thicknesses. And we build the equipment that we put into the factories or into the assembly areas that automatically test the materials that are being used. So we do sell portable equipment as well, but we primarily our biggest part of our industry, our market is putting factory systems in that are not touched by the operator. So it's large pieces of equipment that are communicating with factory automation equipment, PLCs, things like that. And they automatically tell us when to start the inspection. We reply back to them with the information we gathered from the inspection. And then choices are made at that point of what to do with the product. If it's good or bad, do they pass it? Do they put it in a pile to re-inspect? Things like that. So Innerspec, what we do is we are a vertically integrated company. So we have just about every industry or every career path you could think of, we have from research and development, from sales and marketing, from simple clerical type work. We have accounting, we have our controller, we have the scientists that we have in our R&D department are all engineers. We have mechanical engineers who simply design our mechanical equipment, as well as electrical engineers, because we do all of our designs for our electronics. We have software engineers and software programmers. We have technicians in our shop that build the equipment that we produce. And then we have support engineers and technicians that support the equipment that we produce. So we take everything from the ground up, and we over the years have developed our company so that we rely as little as possible on outside vendors, because we have more control over our products if we have the exclusive rights to all of our designs. So even down to the level of small circuit boards, we design the circuit boards ourselves. We even create our own operating systems for our software. So we don't rely on Windows products that are constantly changing drivers and things like that we have to keep up with. So it's sort of like going off the grid. We don't, we decide how long our products can stay in the field and how long we can support them, because we have the designs of everything. And so it's a kind of a unique way of doing business. We're relatively small. We have about 35 people here in Lynchburg, or in Forest, excuse me. But we do have international offices as well. We're the headquarters of offices that are located in Europe, near Madrid. We have in the United Kingdom. We have offices in India. We have offices in Spain, or in New Mexico, in Mexico. And we have offices in Asia and Shanghai, China. So it's a spread out group, and then we have representatives all over the world that take care of our business in other places that that keeps us from having to travel so far. So anyway, that's a little bit about my background and the company. Innerspec was started about 25 years ago. We were a spinoff from Babcock and Wilcox, which most of y'all might be familiar with that company. And when we're hiring people, this is probably no secret to anybody, but hiring staff is one of the most expensive endeavors that a company will go through, because when we hire people, we in some cases we're looking for specific things like software developers, but for the most part, we're looking for people that can continue to learn. And I say that because there's nowhere you can go out and buy a book on the technologies that we use that will tell you how you're going to exist in our company. And just for the fun of the company, when you're out at a party and somebody asks us what we do, we start off slowly by going, we're engineers, we develop equipment, things like that, and we see how long we keep people's attention, because then if they stay interested, we start throwing out what we really do, and that's we create ultrasound using a technique called electromagnetic acoustic transducers. And that's when most people, their eyes glass over and, you're pretty much done with them at the party. But it's a fascinating technology. It's our primary means of conducting non-destructive testing. And for those of you that have, heard of how babies are tested when a woman is pregnant, they use an ultrasonic little wand that they put on the person's body, and sends sound into the body, and it's creating sound waves, and those sound waves are reflected off of an object, the baby in this case, but they use it for bones and other parts of the body to check. And the amount of time that it takes for that sound wave to go from the instrument that has the little goopy stuff on it, that's gel, it's called a couplant, and that sound goes in, it reflects back, and it takes time. It's in microseconds. But each one of the reflections that we get are digitized by the time it takes to get back to us, and that's what forms the image of the object that they're looking for. We do the exact same thing with metals, except that we're using what that term I just referred to. The acronym for that is EMAT, E-M-A-T, and that's using electromechanical forces to create the sound in the metal. And because of the properties of the metal that it's conductive of electricity, it allows us to do that without actually touching the metal. So we send sound through the parts, and we either look for the reflection of the sound, or we look for, did it make it to a receiver on the other side, meaning was there a defective area that blocked the sound. So, so when we explain kind of the technology, we often refer to the ultrasound that people are familiar with, and that's when the babies are tested in the mother's womb. But you can also think of it as dropping a penny or a rock in a swimming pool, in a very still swimming pool, and you can see the waves move, and then it hits the wall of the pool, and then they kind of start coming back. And then those interferences of the waves as the ones coming in are destructively interacting with the ones coming back. And there's lots of studies about how those waves interact with materials that we're trying to test, and that would be part of our scientists and our research and development group that studies that kind of information. So the one thing I'll just say when I'm just talking a little bit about careers, because this seemed to be useful, when I see people in person, is the only advice the main advice I could give to somebody in high school that's considering careers is just stay on top of everything you do. Be the leader, take the hard path every time. And I say that because when you take the hard path, you will find that is the least path traveled, and you're going to have less competition. If you slide through on an average scale and you're with everybody else, well, you are all competing for the same careers, and you're going to end up taking what you can get. I encourage my son, who was a Jefferson Forest graduate. He's 26 now, and he went to Virginia Tech, got an engineer's degree, and then he started taking on internships that needed software programming. And so he actually came to our work and spoke to one of my software managers. Just got a little bit of information about software. He had the typical Python classes in high school, things like that. And he started working on software, and now he's one of the leading software developers in Northern Virginia. He's 100% remote and will be that way for the rest of his life. And he's got an excellent career now in a field that prepared him. His engineering degree prepared him to be able to take on new challenges, and he self-taught his software skills. And has yet another career, and it basically left him with choices. So he didn't have to go out and take whatever job came to him. He pretty much sets his own path now. He decides what kind of work he wants to do because of the skills that he has. And everybody can do that if you just stay whatever field you're interested in, get to the top of it and get everything you can out of it. And it's a little bit of a sacrifice now because you feel like you're missing out on other things, maybe if you're putting more time than other people, but it will leave you at the top of your game, and it will give you all the choices that you need to make good decisions about the kind of career that's going to make you happy, as opposed to settling for something as a job. So that would be the one piece of advice I would give you on career choices. So now I can stop and pause for a second if there's any questions. Pam, I'm not sure if that's appropriate at this point, or would you like me to continue on and just move on to the tour?
There is a question in the chat. It's like, what do you like most about your job?
It's probably, with me, it's the same with most of the jobs I've had in the past. It's almost the unexpected. It never gets boring to me. As a school teacher, you have a year, and then the year kind of repeats itself, and it's kind of the same thing. And so after a number of years, But this job, I can have a full day planned and I walk in and it can be completely different than what I planned and you just don't know what it is. That's the part that keeps me interested. So I don't, because I like changing things. I like new things. The satisfaction comes from challenging problems that you fix and a customer is appreciative of it. If you really show them, convince them that you're an expert at what you're doing, but also to listen to the needs of the customer rather than doing a lot of talking. I'm doing a lot of talking now, but I usually spend most time listening and then clarifying with the customer that you understand what it is they're telling you, so that so that kind of thing really makes an impression on the customers, and you get great feedback. And I guess one of the things that I thrive on is helping others. I like to please people. And a college professor told me one time that you by guaranteeing others' success, you will guarantee your own success. And that's kind of the motto I live by. But that's what I enjoy most about it, is helping out the customers and learning new technology.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. There's another question that says, do the software engineers at Innerspec design operating systems for the machines that you test?
Yes, that's a great question. For years, we built all of our software platforms, our application software, on top of Windows operating systems. So, and over the years, some of the software that we have to write for some of our circuit boards take drivers, and Windows will change their drivers. And they, obviously they're not going to call us and tell us, hey, look forward to this new update that's coming out. And then, so we're always playing catch up, trying to keep our software working with the latest Windows programs. So in the last couple of years, we took on a pretty enormous software project, and we expanded our software group by, we used to be 2 to 3, and now we're probably 10 or 12 throughout in all of our offices. And we do design our own operating platform. We call it iTop, which is Innerspec Technologies operating platform. And it's written on a Linux basis. The nice thing is when a customer says, well, we need everything to run on Windows. And we say, that's great. Go ahead and buy yourself your Windows computer. And all you do is type in an IP number and you're connected to our system. So it's pretty transparent to the customer. They don't really know what we're doing in the background, and they can run on their Windows computer. We're running on a Linux-based customized operating system. That was a great question.
Well, and he's got a follow-up one. How long does Innerspec keep the same operating system software? How often is it updated?
The operating system itself is updated regularly, and we push the updates sort of like your iPhone. It'll tell you when updates are available. But then and this will be a standard. For now, this is the first one that we've done, and we'll probably be one of the few in the industry that have ever done this. But then our application softwares are all unique to each of our applications. So we might have a separate application for weld inspection versus thickness measurement, but all of those run on our operating system that is controlled by a user interface that we refer to as the system manager, and that's what controls all the updates and controls what software is actually being run for the application. So we intend on using it for forever, hopefully, and we continually update it in-house. We're the designers of it.
So maybe we can pause right there. I know there's some more questions, but maybe we can pause, because I believe you wanted to take us on a little tour, or is there anyone that you wanted to have this? Yeah. We've got about 10 more minutes left, a little bit more than that, but sure. If there's anyone you want to kind of.
Yep, and I'm gonna.
Because we can hold over at the end and have some more questions.
Okay, let me set my phone. I'm gonna put my mask on real quick, and then I'm gonna flip the camera around so you can kind of see where I'm going. So this was our conference room that we were sitting in, and this was my camera operator. This is Jennifer. So just real quickly, I'll take you and show you the way our office is laid out. So this is where all the engineers and the researchers and everything have their cubicles. This is our sales room, which is a little bit of a mess because we are having some pretty big projects right now. This is one of our sales engineers, Scott Stanley. And Scott is actually a graduate of
Liberty High School.
Liberty High School. And Scott, in 60 seconds, tell us how you got here.
Well, I was a health science major actually at Lynchburg College. And when I got out of school, I got into manufacturing, which led into engineering. And long story short, enjoy the technical field of engineering and didn't have to travel far to find a good job.
So, and Scott's actually one of the ones that's causing the mess in the sales room. He's just landed a couple pretty large projects that we have with some aerospace companies, and we're actually doing an expansion behind our building. Another building about half the size of what we have here to handle some of these larger projects that we just sold.
Yeah.
So,
no, if I could say anything to any kids, it's you don't have to go far to find a good technical job in this area.
And because we can't really discuss it because of confidentiality, I will let you look a little bit closer at his shirt, and this will give you an idea of what that project is about.
Yeah, F-35's Lockheed Martin. If you want to work with Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman or any of the big guys, yeah, you can do it right here in Forest.
So, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
And then is Dave over here? Yeah, so this is Dave Mann. This is another one of our sales engineers. He does mostly our integrated. And Dave, tell me your history.
Well, in high school, I was good in math, good in sciences, kind of enjoyed it, learning how things work and how they were made, and ended up going to Virginia Tech, getting an engineering degree. And after a couple of different careers, ended up here. It's very technical product, and it requires somebody technical in order to sell it and explain it to customers and understand what the customers need. So I'd encourage any of you that like to tinker with things, that are just sort of naturally good at math, consider an engineering degree, even if that's not your thing 100%. Don't discount manufacturing and technical manufacturing as a career path. It's not all done overseas. There's quite a bit of it in the US, and it can be very interesting and exciting to get into.
Especially right here in Forest.
Especially right here in Forest and in the Lynchburg area. You don't have to go far to have really well-paying jobs and an interesting career choice.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
And just following up on that just a little bit. So yeah, our sales engineers that we have are very technical people, because they have to understand not just what our products do, but they have to go out into the field and understand how they're going to be used, so that we'll know when we need to make changes to keep up with changing technologies in factories. Then these guys are the ones that have to tell us that. This is our production area, and you'll notice first thing most people see is all these flags across the top. And we're a very international company, because there's so many people like you younger students that leave the area. We have to import people. And these are flags of all the nations of the people that have worked in this building. And that's not including all the others that we have in our other international offices. Our shop is set up, our manufacturing areas over here. We have electronic manufacturing, we have cabinet assembly, we have our electrical engineers work through here. I'm gonna pop in and just introduce you to one more. This is Jesse. And Jesse, can you just real quickly give them a 60-second spiel about how you got here? Your background. I think you went to
I went to CBCC. And someone reached out to Marcella Gale from here, and she referred me to you guys, and now I'm one of you guys.
Yeah. And Jesse, when he started with us, he you had not worked in an electronic field before, was it? And so he came in as one of our senior electrical engineers was retiring, and kind of worked under him to kind of gather some of the information that he had. And then now Jesse is one of our lead electricians here. And we're really fortunate to have him, and glad he stuck around. So, and are you from this area?
Yeah.
Okay. Where'd you go to high school?
Bedford.
Where'd you go to high school?
Didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Okay. So you went straight to CVCC, and there he is. All right.
Yeah,
So let's see, how are we doing on time? 5 more minutes. So I'll show you I'll show you 2 demonstrations of equipment through here. This will just take a second. When I was mentioning automotive products, the cars today still have metal in them. As much as you think everything's composites and fiberglass, and underneath all that, there's still a metal frame, and the metal is made up of two dissimilar thicknesses of metal. So that if you say have a door and you need a heavier piece of metal on the hinges, then they can very quickly lighten that up for the rest of the door. And it not only saves weight and cost of the car and fuel efficiency, but it also controls crash dynamics. So they can kind of control the way the car is going to crumble if it gets into a wreck. And this is just a sample of one of those pieces of metal. And you can see there's a little seam across here. That's the laser weld. And in that seam, we have some little tiny defects put in. These are holes that are less than 1 millimeter in diameter, and then some notches on here. This is one of our sensors. And in a factory, this would be just running through at about 1 meter per second. And these parts would be coming out at, say, 3,000 to 5,000 per shift. And our system is built to inspect each one of those welds and tell the operator if that weld will survive the actual stamp, which is the next process, which turns it into the shape of the door. And then I'll go ahead and run one for you just so you can kind of hear how it sounds. So on the software, I'll press the start, and then I'll just run the scan across. And that sound you heard was a magnet turning on and off at about 300 times a second. And each time it turned on and off, it created the ultrasonic signal that I was referring to. And then the screen that the operator would see, where you see those spikes, those are the little pinholes. And each one of those spikes has, if it crosses this little line right here, which is an alarm threshold, will cause an alarm that sends a signal to the factory robot that will pick up that part and throw it into a scrap pile. And all that's automated. And the trick is, for the manufacturer of those parts, is to create enough good parts and as few bad parts as possible. Because it's great that we're catching the bad parts, but every time we catch one, that costs them money because they have to throw that part away. And so they try to change their welder to create as few bad parts as possible and use our system to tell us when those parts are good or bad, so they can kind of tune up that system as quickly as possible. And then this last demonstration, this one is, the name of the product is called RollMate. And the word roll is what this is. This is a small sliver of a large roll. And if you think of a rolling pin in a baker or whatever, these large metallic rolls are used to press against metal in like a large plate of metal and reduce it in size. And that's what happens in steel mills. And we have this system here, and what it does is it checks the surface and the internal structure of these rolls to make sure that they will not break while the rolling process is happening. Because of the tremendous amount of pressure that they're under, it can be very dangerous. This is Brad, our product manager for this product. And Brad, what I've been doing is just having people tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, where you went to school.
Yeah, so I'm from this area. I went to Forest Elementary, Forest Middle, and then Jefferson Forest. So literally right around the corner my entire life. Went to Virginia Tech afterwards. And then I heard about this company. It was right up the alley of what I was doing at my previous internship with NDT work. So I figured I'd give it a shot, and I haven't regretted it since. There's a lot of hats you wear here, but it's very fulfilling.
And Brad, so when Brad first started, we put him immediately on a project to kind of catch up and finish off a project that a former engineer had started and that had resigned. Did a great job on that, and then he not only doing design work, but he's doing project management. And he's actually gone to some classes that we have sponsored him for to take project management courses.
Yep.
And as he says, he does a lot of things here, and just like all our other engineers.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of opportunity. You learn a whole lot more than I would have ever expected to learn here.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right, so that's Innerspec, and that is exactly 12 o'clock. So if there's any more questions, or I'll turn it back over to you, Pam.
Start my video. Well, thank you so much. I think that was just a great tour. I'm looking forward to being back in person, but I think that was great. I loved how you kind of took everybody around. But Are there any other questions in the chat that we have?
There was one last question. Is there a server at your Innerspec building?
Yeah, we have a fairly large server room. We maintain a lot of our information on our local servers, but then we use cloud drives so that we share with our other offices. We use, branded, like Microsoft OneDrive. We've gone through a lot of different kind of cloud drives. But yeah, we have our software group has a subgroup called the IT group, and we actually have a couple people that work in our European office that do a lot of the IT work for us. But yes, we do maintain a fairly large server system.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if there are any other questions at this point, but I really appreciate the, do we want to stay on or keep recording? I'm not sure how you want to do that, but
No,
I really appreciate your time today.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop.